like a book. Where is it? Turtle? There it is. Huge pain. Do not recommend. Greetings once more, YouTube, as we find ourselves at the beginning of another Link to the Past seed. Although this time we're going to be playing in open mode one. Let me just get the file prepared. Gonna be playing as Bo from Animal Crossing today. Probably being a little bit more clipped out of it this time, since, you know, there's gonna be a lot of similarities to the last one that we posted. Slowly but surely, the video size is going to be cut down bit by bit. I might just, you know, cut dungeons entirely or stuff like that. But for now, I am on a somewhat limited time today. I'm starting with boots once again to make sure things go a little bit faster. And yeah, let's go ahead and get things started. So the choice of opener in open mode is always kind of interesting, and Boots shakes it up even more, because there's just so many different ways that you can choose to start off. You have so few resources at the start, since you have no bombs or rupees or anything, that it's just like, where do you go? What do you do? So one of the options that people like to choose when you start with Boots is to head over to the eastern area right away, and go take a look at Sahasrarla's house. Because you can use the boots to bonk open the bombable wall in the back. It's not a bad option. It does mean that if you have to come back to Eastern at some point early on, then it's kind of annoying, but it's at least another option. This only works when you start with the boots, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get into the back room without them. Not without having a bomb, at least. So we got 3 crystals in the light world, so there's potential for this one to be pretty fast. Alright, so we got some bombs out of it. Moon Pearl. Okay, lots of bombs out of Moon Pearl. Pretty good. With those types of items, I think we're still going to start from Sanctuary next. Okay, yeah, good call. Let's head on over towards Kakariko Village, but I'm going to do a couple of other things on the way. So we got some basic resources now. The main thing we're missing is money. That will usually crop up in one of these first few checks. You just need a few so you can, you know, pay the 100 rupees to the bottle vendor and make sure you get that item. Openings in open mode are always kind of a pain. If you don't start with the boots, your options are a little bit more limited. You usually either go up this way to do, like, poultries and crabs and whatnot. Okay, rank 1 poultry is actually quite good. Gives us the rupees that we need, so that's no problem anymore. Crabs have hearts, not particularly useful. Let's see, the tree has bombs. Okay, don't have to worry about that. So since we know that the poultries are 80 rupees, I want to make sure to kill an enemy to set that back up again. There we go. Because there's another tree that you can pull on further here in the Lost Woods. It's good to know what these early poultry locations are, since they're rather useful. The later ones, not so much, but the early ones are nice to know. So yeah, now we can just dash down here, and this one's another tree you can pull. Do note that these trees are no longer pullable after you defeat Ganon, but you usually only need them at the start of the seed anyways, so it's fine. At least we didn't have to buy any bombs this time, we have plenty. In older versions of the randomizer, it was kind of tricky to actually get early bombs because bomb expansions were part of the pool. They changed all those into, like, individual bomb items, so it's easier to get them now. There, that'll be enough rupees to start us off. So an alternative strategy here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and demonstrate it. So let's do a trick that's also kind of common in this mode. When you start specifically with the boots, you can do a little bit of a shenaniganery here at the start. So for some reason, if you dash, like, right next to the pin like that, and then bonk into the wall, what this should do is set you up for water walking. Okay, that should work. Yeah, there we go. The reason why this is somewhat appealing is that it gets you to the Ice Rod Cave a lot earlier and more conveniently than you could otherwise. And that way you can still always just run back to Kakariko Village anyways. It's just an alternative opening strat if you want to use it. You can also follow this up by doing more water walking if you want to check Hobo. So, like, we can do this. Alright, let's see what the Hobo has. Just a heart piece. This one's always a little bit of a pain because the Moldorms move around so erratically. So if you only have bombs, it can be somewhat of a problem to actually hit all of them. You're really at the mercy of the mini Moldorms. Get a few of our bombs back. The Mire's nice, at least. There's definitely certain weapons that are a lot better for that cave than others. Like, the hammer's practically useless. Bombs are okay. But just having a simple sword or a hookshot or something works a lot better. The timing on the Mire is actually kind of nice, because if you spam the Y button, that happens. Also, it turns out it's a good thing we didn't go to Kakariko right away. That works, I guess. So finding something like the flute is the ideal scenario if you end up putting off Kakariko. So now we can activate that. Oh, I'd rather not take that. Alright, so in summary, from the Kakariko village, we managed to get one sword, one glove, an ice rod, and a magical boomerang. So nothing too substantial, so we're gonna head into Hyrule Castle next. Alright, front of Escape wasn't too terribly interesting. Let's look at the back of Escape. This is one benefit of open mode, at least, is that with just a glove, you can go to the back of Escape very easily. Just chuck these rocks out of the way and fall on in! Alright, so the nice thing here is we never got the dungeon map. So that means the last item in this dungeon, so the one that's in the dark rooms in the sewer area, that contains the map. So we can actually just skip it. Now we are in a bit of a peculiar situation. We got the flippers, and I would like to go check out everything over by the Zora area, but we're a little short on money for Zora themselves. So there's a couple of available options here for me to quickly get some extra cash. I could either go down to the desert and lift up a rock that, you know, gives me a cave with 50 rupees in it. I could do more poultry stuff, or, and I want to go do with this one because it's a handy trick to show. There's the Chris Houlihan room, which contains a bunch of money. 225 rupees, I believe. So one way you can do this, and I'll probably get into this in more detail at some point, is by using a bomb jump setup here on this grave. And if you do it right, you'll dislodge the camera a little bit and cause you to fall instead into this room. And just like that, we'll have enough money to pay off King Zora. That way I'm not leaving anything behind, and we don't have to worry about how that's going to bite us in a bit. First up, the Waterfall of Wishing. The hookshot is the most important thing here, for sure. So that allows me to get to the eastern side of Death Mountain, which is a lot of items, so we'll definitely be heading that way next. Look at looking like a pretty linear path of items at the moment. Get this thing, to get this thing, to get this thing. You dig? So, for our lovely amount of patience when it comes to King Zora himself, what are we gonna get? Probably absolutely nothing of worth. But you never know. Oh hey, it was absolutely nothing of worth. Normally you would save and quit from this point to get out faster, but I'll be a little lazy. Now, this isn't in logic, but since we're right here, we might as well just do it. Navigating this particular dark room becomes rather important over time, so knowing how to get to and from where the old man is. There is a hole that I just dodged in the previous room. You have to kind of go around it a little bit. So kind of holding down right here, and then just holding straight to the right once I feel I've gotten past that hole. Then after holding right for a while, I hold down left. If you did it right, you should hear the bats if you haven't killed them all. There! And that unlocks the old man's saving quit point. I don't want to go to Tower of Hera yet. Actually, you know what? We have the hook shell. Let's just go to Tower of Hera. Boulder's a little bit annoying to fight with the Master Sword, but not too bad. It's just 3 spins. The only reason why it's an issue is because you move a little bit slower when you're charging your sword, so Mulder can actually catch up to you. So it needs a lot of dodging. And naturally, Mulder dropped the map, so there's an item in the basement. We're just gonna have to pretend it doesn't exist, and hope for the best. Because at this time, there's no way to access it. But hey, we'll take that crystal. Obviously, what we really need is gonna be over on the east side of Death Mountain, so we're making use of this hookshot we found. Because if you come on down this way, we can hookshot straight across. And using that same little trick with the mirror blocks earlier, we could save a little bit of time in this cave as well. Normally you enter it from the cave further down the mountain, and you have to fall down into this pit to get here. But if you have the mirror, you can just kind of take a little shortcut. So what I'd really like to see in here is the hammer. Okay, the plot thickens. This is somewhat annoying, because this also unlocks something over where we just were, at the Tower of Hera. That's what I get for demonstrating, I guess. So now we're gonna go to Desert Palace, and probably find either the hammer or the Titan's Mitt here. Nice thing about all the sprites is they all have their own praying animation. Bo from Animal Crossing here takes a little bite out of an apple. So I'm definitely expecting this to be where we finally get our Dark World access. It can't, like, string us along very much longer. If it's just the lamp, I'm gonna be a little upset. Because that would mean we have to go defeat Aghanim to get to the Dark World, which is not my favorite kind of seed. The Titan's Mitt, okay. Not unexpected, just... It's not what I prefer, would be a good way of putting it. Let's go ahead and see if the other item's over on this side. That it is, okay. So this does actually give us access to that fire rod that we saw. So that is an option for me to do something right now. First things first, I think we're going to start off going to the Mire area. This is mostly for information, because I want to know what medallion's required to open the door here. So we'll take a quick peek. It is the Quake medallion that we require. Go ahead and label that on the tracker. There's also a chance that there's something in here, and it's just a very quick check. Alright, nothing important. The last thing it allows me to check is the checkerboard cave, which is just up in the upper right. Oops. Alright, so now we have some difficult decisions. Ooh, baby. There are some annoying places to start the Dark World from. Really, the only one that's all that great is coming up here to the Village of Outcasts area. So we'll enter via this portal. Do I want to actually dive Skullwoods right now? I don't think so, actually. I'm gonna go up this way first. I think if I'm gonna do Skullwoods, I kind of want to go get the Fire Rod first. Just so we can do it all at once. So I'm just gonna get this upper stuff dealt with first. So, like I said, a lot of these open scenes tend to play kind of samey. And as a result, I have a hunch I know where the hammer is going to be, and that's why I'm heading straight there. We'll see whether or not I'm correct momentarily. Ooh, that just makes it better, though! Alright, so we got ourselves a bow. This allows us to do more in Palace of Darkness, as well as finish Eastern Palace when we get there. Seems good. So one thing that these seeds love to do in these scenarios, when it gives you the access to Eastern Dark World in the midst as your Dark World access, they love to put the hammer over on this side specifically. It's very annoying because, you know, there's a bunch of stuff you want to have the hammer for in the Village of Outcasts area. So my current prediction of where the hammer is in the Palace of Darkness, but it could just be an item that's going to sway me in that direction at some point. I'm really hoping it's not Ice Palace, because I really just can't stand Ice Palace sometimes. Also, just having the hammer in Ice Palace is very annoying. This round's a little bit weird, very non-traditional, I would say. But as long as the hammer's where I think it is, then we'll be fine. Normally, especially with having the Mire, you're supposed to go through the Village of Outcasts area first, do all that, instead of starting from the north and then going this way, but... I mean, you can do what you want. Routing is as it is. And mine's always been kind of up in the air. I've never really had a consistent pathing. Because it's randomizer. If you have a consistent pathing, it's gonna mess you up sometimes, so, you know, just kind of go with the flow, do what you want. Just try to be efficient about it, you know? But for now, we're going into Palace of Darkness. Having the Mire here is always quite the blessing, because it's nice. We can go straight from the Palace of Darkness into Eastern Palace after this. Plus, it just helps a lot in Palace of Darkness itself by allowing you to keep mirroring back to the start instead of having to walk. Routing in Palace of Darkness as well is always kind of flexible. It really just depends on where the small keys end up at the start of the dungeon. So it's another one of those use your own discretion type of things. Especially depends on your comfort with doing any of the rooms in the dark. It's gonna be one unfortunate thing about us sequence breaking this without the lamp is that you won't be able to see a darn thing once I go into the dark rooms. Just, you know, any of the brighter enemy sprites and, like, sword trails and whatnot. Alright, so one quirk about Palace of Darkness. In open mode, there can only be two things in the front that are not small keys. So we got the big key and we got the magic powder. Therefore, that last chest over there is guaranteed to be a small key. The dungeon needs there to at least be 4, because you could theoretically waste all of your small keys otherwise if you only had 3. So that's all it really is it's just trying to protect you from yourself. Read like a book. It's like I said, you play a couple of these, like enough of these scenes, and they start to blend together. This one is no exception. What do you mean I gotta run to the complete opposite side of the dark world to get the hammer? It's not like that hasn't happened 100 times. So this is actually rather handy. Our route has gone from a little bit silly to a little bit ideal. The only thing that we're really missing is the lamp, which would be nice, because finishing this dungeon without it and without the fire rod's kind of a problem. So the main issue with the room that's going to be coming up here soon is that it's pitch black, and we gotta try and take out 6 turtle enemies, which require being flipped over in order to damage them. It's not ideal. I have some strategies of how to make this work, but it's not very often I have to put them into practice with minimal equipment. So let's see how this goes. Alright, so that should be around there. Shoot. I was hoping they would flip back up in time. Ooh, that was a good kill. Okay, it's around there somewhere. I've always hated doing this room in the dark. Where'd it go? Where is it? It's right there. Where is it? Turtle? There it is. Huge pain. Do not recommend. Okay, so we can only afford to get hit twice by Helmsword King, so we gotta be careful. And I walk right into him like a fool. Oh boy. Not clean, but we'll take it at least. The Dark Turtle room definitely took way too long to be as worth it as I would like. We at least did it, but I'm not happy with that one. That could have gone way better. On the bright side, Eastern Palace is much easier to finish without having a lamp. Okay, so this is how this room works for Eastern Palace. You want to shoot an arrow so you can see where the the Igor is. That way you can move a little bit closer to him to trigger him in the first place to run towards you, and shoot another arrow to take him out. Very simple way to go about it. If you have a tempered sword, then you can actually just kind of flail your sword at it, and that's good enough. But it's definitely much easier to do that than the Palace of Darkness dark rooms. Eastern's probably one of the first dark rooms that people will end up learning because of it being much more simplistic. Yeah, just like that, we're heading straight for the Armos Knights, which will hopefully be nice to me and drop an item and not a map. Alright, good, we saved a little time. So I guess we're heading out to Swamp Palace next. It's another crystal, why not? Alright, so this is set up to be a pretty standard run through Swamp Palace. So, see if there's anything interesting in here. Alright, moment of truth! And nothing interesting was found in here. I mean, there's still 2 items on the left side, but... I don't wanna. I'll leave them. I'm in a hurry, so I'm trying, cut some corners here and there, and hopefully it won't bite me. Otherwise, this recording might not see the light of day. Hey, if this goes up on YouTube, it sees the light of day. In the meantime, though, let's finally go to Hyrule Cave. Yeah, better late than never, right? Not really expecting much, all things considered. Maybe a lamp. Well, that would have been useful. Oops. This is what being a goof gets you sometimes. But hey, at least it showed the theoreticals of what happens when you do dark rooms you really shouldn't. Can't be that. Whoops. That would have been helpful, to say the least. I'm an idiot. So that was a fun little trick called bomb duplication. For some reason, when the timer ticks down to 0, if you screen transition, it clones the big bomb that's following you, so it's perfectly A-okay, despite the fact that it really shouldn't be. It's a weird one, it's risky. I usually do it anyways. Alright, I think at this point I should probably go back up Death Mountain and pick up that fire rod. Alright, I'm gonna go to Skullwoods first, before heading over to Ice Palace. I am ultimately rather curious about the state of the pedestal at this point. It's unlikely, but it is technically possible. So we're gonna go ahead and start from the middle point with Skullwoods. This is mostly because I'm curious about Ped. Oh, this room without the Kingdom of Samaria hurts. Alright. One item already. Seems good. If there's one more in the back, then I can skip the entire front portion. Seems like a good trade to me. Alright, so order of operations is do the back first. Then check the pedestal. That way I get food away after I'm done. Oops. Oh, at least we have red mail. Okay, that's kind of annoying, actually. The reason why that's annoying is I wanted to go up to Death Mountain after we'd found the Cane of Samaria and the, a medallion of some kind. Turns out that was impossible because I needed the fire rod from Death Mountain to get the Cane of Samaria. Alright, nothing on bed. So if it turns out that... if it turns out that the fire medallion is in Turtle Rock, then that's just really annoying because it forces you to climb up there twice. In the meantime, we're going to Ice Palace. Ice Palace is very easy to complete, thanks to a handy-dandy Race Loud glitch that we will be abusing rather thoroughly. So Ice Palace is always an interesting one. This dungeon is a nightmare your first time through the game. A lot of people didn't even figure out the intended way to do the bottom floor puzzle, and instead came here with the Cane of Samaria from Misery Mire in order to cheese the puzzle instead, feeling that that was the intended solution despite the dungeon numbering. I was one of those people! I never actually did this palace the way you're supposed to until after I had already grown up. Little child me figured out the Cane of Samaria solution instead. It's always one of the interesting things about these more non-linear Zelda games. Sometimes you can come up with whole different solutions. And to me that's a bit more fun, because it gives you a bit more, options you can pick from. The game giving you a suggested order is fine. But if you end up finding a way to go about it in your own way that feels better, well, it feels better, don't it? Bombos! locked behind the fire rod, locked behind the big key to Ice Palace in Ice Tea Room. This scene would have caused some troubles, to say the least. Alright, so I guess we're just going to Turtle Rock after this. I'm gonna use Bombos to save some magic on the boss, at least. You're not in my good books right now, Seed. Turns out that fire rod up on Death Mountain actually locked a lot of stuff. So now we can climb all the way back up Death Mountain again to go to Turtle Rock, where we will probably find our Go-Boat item on Laser Bridge. You know, I hadn't played open scenes in a very long time before starting up these YouTube videos. I don't know how to feel about the fact that they're playing out the exact same way as they always have. The frequency that you find your last needed item on Laser Bridge of Turtle Rock is high enough that there are lots and lots of memes about it. So let's go see if those memes are dreams. Alright, here we are coming on up to Laser Bridge. Let's see if Quake is in chest number 1. It's all too easy for me. Oh, God. I see open mode hasn't changed at all. If anybody wonders why I usually play wackier modes these days, this is why. I forgot to set up a glitch. That's fine. It's fine. I don't care. Oh, dear. This is very silly. Alright, I guess all we have to do now is beat Misery Mire and then Desert Palace so we can head up to Ganon's Tower. Simple kamikaze type of strategy for Vitreous. If you don't care about taking damage, there's a lot of very simple strategies for these bosses. You just get in there and spit them to death. Wasn't the cleanest way to do it. I've never been the best at the Tempered Sword strategy for that boss. If you do it fast enough, then Vitreous will never get a chance to fire any lightning at all. But I'm always just a little too slow. Anyways, and next... Let's just leave our warp right here, I guess. We already have the big key for Desert, so we just have to do the back. So if this were a race, I'd be feeling pretty good about the whole fact that we didn't do a darn thing in Village of Outcasts. I'd be feeling bad about the Turtle Room in Palace of Darkness, since that went really poorly, but... the rest of it, I'd be feeling good. Hey, we actually got a nice pattern for a change. Usually at least one of them short hops off in a random direction. I can't get it. Equipment-wise, we're all set. We get everything I could possibly need. The Tempered Sword just makes everything easy. So this time around, I actually want to do a different strategy for trying to find the big key. We're gonna do the one that I used to do back in the 2017 spring tournament for this game, called Dark Magician. It's essentially doing the left side for a little bit, and then going to the right. What this does is it guarantees that you have a small key to allow you to do the full right-hand side, as sometimes you won't get a small key in the first room on the right, and thus have to leave some of the chests over there. It's a little risky since it does have some backtracking involved if it doesn't work out, but if it does work out, such as the key being in here, then it's fine. This time it was not in here, so under most circumstances it would have been a time waste right now. We'll see what happens with this room. Nice silver arrows. Okay, so yeah, it would have been a time waste. Oops. There is a chest in that room there called the tile room, but that's the last resort in most cases because it is very slow. Like, it is disproportionately slower than all the other chests in this entire section. And that's why you'll often see people skip past it first. If they have to, they'll come back and do it absolutely last. Naturally, when I decide to, not skip the right-hand side, it doesn't exist here. And in the previous video where I did skip the right-hand side, it was there, so... That's Ganon's Tower for you. It's a guessing game. You will frequently guess wrong. Walk of shame. Walk of shame. Going back through here isn't too bad, so it's not a huge time loss, but it's still a time lost. When it comes to this particular routing strategy, I usually use it if I'm feeling, like, behind in a larger race. Or if I feel significantly ahead because I don't want the right-hand side play to cause me to lose that aheadness. In a 1v1, sometimes I use it if I'm hoping that the big key is in the room with all the Stalfoses there at the start. Essentially trying to set it up like a trap, where I'm hoping my opponent does the full right-hand side and I can skip it. There's a lot of little nuances to reasons to use that particular strategy, but statistically it will be slower the majority of the time. It's a strategic move, not necessarily a speedrun move. So it's very much with races in mind. Alright, small key here, that means it's guaranteed that the big key's in here. Why is that the case? Because with a lot of areas in this dungeon, you need to have a certain number of small keys in order for it to be considered in logic. For the randomizer room, it needs to have 4, unless the big key is also in there, in which case you can have 3. So the only time you should have a small key showing up there is if the big key is in there too. And the reasoning for this is because there's small key doors on the top of the tower. If you don't have the ability to reach those small key doors, then you can't waste the key. So if the big key's in there, you can't go upstairs and waste a key. Therefore, it's okay for the small key to be in there. It's very, situational logic that other game modes don't use, because it's a lot to keep in the back of your head. So just know this way. If you see a small key in the room with all the buttons there, or the one that's after the room with the Gibdos, then the big key is there too. It's ultimately not super important, but it's one way to let you know, hey, you can get excited now, you're in the right spot. Alright, let's see how old Aga 2's feeling today in terms of cooperative patterns. What's your opinion on cooperative patterns today, Aga 2? Ooh, that's pretty good, actually. Oh, I messed it up. It was cooperative and everything, but I messed it up. Oh, I probably wouldn't have gotten a triple off of that one anyways. Darn, if I got a triple off the first one, though. I mean, this is as good of a lineup as it gets. But we only needed 1 hit. Yeah, a little bit sad about that one, but could have been worse. Either way, time to take on Ganon. We've got red mail, tons of hearts, tempered swords, silver arrows, and half magic, so this will be a breeze. Let's go! There we go. One hookshot doesn't fire in the right direction. You get hit 3 times. That's how it goes sometimes. I was supposed to hookshot to the left to get to the other torch, but, I mean, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Alright, how are you feeling, Ganon? Double sounds good. Oh. Bit early on that fire rod. Oh well. Double it is still. Just, you know, with 1 extra teleport. Not the cleanest run, but I mean, at least we routed it well. There's still tons of green on the map, that's generally a good sign. Let's go get that Triforce. And scene! So yeah, that's scene in summary. Welcome to open mode. This sure be open mode in here. This is one of those scenes that's progressed in the same way that I've seen about 100 times. You get that early bits for Darkworld access. The only thing you really have to do at that point is to go to Palace of Darkness, because why would you go anywhere else other than a place that requires the hammer? And then your gunboat item's just sitting on Laser Bridge and Turtle Rock. Overall, pretty smooth scene as a result. Very predictable, unfortunately, but that's mostly just because of how many of these I've played. I used to play a lot more of these simpler modes in the past. I eventually got rather sick of it, though, because there's less variance. But if you haven't played very many of them, then scenes like this are still very interesting. So this one's more of a jadedness due to overexposure. Overall, though, I'm happy with this one. I'm happy that it went quick. I'm ready in lots of time for what I need to be doing. The swords were nice. Let's see, we didn't really miss out on very much. Just 1 extra sword somewhere and wherever Ether was. Didn't have to touch Village of Outcasts or Thieves Town at all. That is not very frequent, so that's kind of funny. Like, not having to touch that entire left-hand side of the Dark World is pretty funny. We did the Northwest, we did the Southwest, but we didn't do the West. Of course, the lamp showing up immediately after I mentioned it, and then the quake showing up immediately, and the first chest, when I was fully expecting it to be there. Not in the first chest, mind you, but I was expecting it to be on Laser Bridge. Just one of those cases of taking the items you're given and just following one after the other after the other. I'm happy it wasn't an Agassiz, though. For that one, though, I'm gonna call it there. I'll see you guys at the statistics at the end. This is another example of a simpler seed, open mode this time, showing, you know, a couple of approaches you can take to starting the game. I'll probably stick to simpler seeds for a little while, just so people can get accustomed to them. Because that's the thing, is I don't want to dive directly into the insane stuff on YouTube. Because I want to give some time to get some context of what the more simple randomizations look like before we move on to the more complicated stuff. So, see you guys in a little bit. Alright, coming on up on the important stuff. So, first word, we got that pretty quickly. Over in Kakariko Village. Flute was rather nice showing up in, like, before we even got there as well. Getting those mobility items nice and early helps speed things up considerably. We're stuck on the Master Sword for a little while, but nothing too bad. Although it did lead to some sloppy play here and there. GT routing could have been better if we just stuck to regular stuff. But I wanted to demonstrate something new. Collection rate should be relatively low thanks to, skipping the, 152. It's still trending on high, but that does make sense. We did a lot of Ganon's Tower, and despite doing nothing in the west side of the Dark World, we had to do most of the other dungeons, especially Turtle Rock. Didn't have to touch Thieves Town, which was nice, but overall, good seed. Little funny that was as predictable as it was, but sometimes that happens. It's just stuff that comes with experience. In the meantime, though, I do want to thank you guys for watching another one of these, and I will catch you all next time. Until then, though, take care. I need to get, an end screen or something for these things. Maybe I should work on a generic end screen. That could be a thing. We will see.